Sports Radio.
Here comes the siren. I want to go higher. Oh, my goodness. He's to the drive. Deep left field. No doubt about it. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Oh, baby, for sure.
Cabin Sports Radio starts now.
Cabin Sports Radio, coming to you once again another Monday night on the Cabin Radio airwaves with myself, Lecter, and my good friend, Unbreakable, Mike Gibbons. We have a big show for you today, of course. Many things going on, but first and foremost, teeing up the Super Bowl between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. As always, when you are on week number 2 of Super Bowl anticipation downtime, you start to wonder, man, this game's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
You always kind of feel by this point, it's like, this game better live up to the hype.
Right?
You know what? Like, I get it. Normally there is a lot going on. In this, you've just had like at-home interviews with, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
It has felt not like a regular Super Bowl because it is not a regular Super Bowl. But still, very much looking forward to this game. Mike, how you feeling heading into, and I've already said it several times, so I can't censor myself, the big game.
The big game. I'm pretty excited. You're right, though. Around this time, we would have already had some pretty good sound bites, right? Like media week leading up to Super Bowl. The big game is always really exciting.
That's 3 fines.
I know. I can still remember, and I'm sure you can too. I can even picture it to this day. I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Yes.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Marshawn.
Right. Beast mode. Right. There's always some good tidbits and sound bites that come out of media week heading into the big game. It's obviously a little bit different this year. There's going to be reduced capacity in Tampa Bay. Really cool, though, that one of the teams will be the quote-unquote home team for this matchup. First time it's happened in the Super Bowl era, so that will be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe Tampa Bay does get a bit of a home field advantage, or maybe it's a bunch of snowbirds or a bunch of just general NFL fans that fly down for the big game anyways. So that will be something to sort of pay attention to. The weekend will be the halftime performer for this
Canadian
year.
Boy.
There
All right.
you go. Yeah.
Is that the first time that's happened? I can't think of too many other Canadian performers.
Yeah, I guess the Beeb has never done it, I guess.
I don't think the Beebs has ever done it, no.
You know, that is a good question.
Drake might have been the only other, but I don't think he's
I don't even know if he has.
Yeah.
We got to do some research and then come back with some facts.
Shania Twain? No one?
She should have. She'd be great. She'd be awesome for a halftime show. Bring Celine out from Las Vegas, maybe? Who knows?
Yeah.
Get some Canadian love over there.
Wow. Okay, so that might be a new record as well.
Yeah, we have to. Okay, we'll come back with some facts next Monday when we do our recap of the big game.
That's right.
The day after, of course. I think as soon as the conference championships wrapped up, I did figure that the Chiefs would be the favorites. They're the pretty significant betting favorites right now, but of course you got Tom Brady on the other side, so it's setting up to be a real good Sunday.
I was so ready for a really great soundbite when I saw a little headline. It was like, Tom Brady has special message for Bill Belichick heading into the Super Bowl. I was like, oh man, he must say something hilarious. He might just like a little ha-ha moment or something like that. No, just gives like the most like classy answer ever. Super humble, super grateful for everything Bill Belichick, did for him as a young player throughout his career. Mm-hmm. It's just like, Tom, why do you got to be so perfect? Like, anyway.
I know for so many people he's pictured as this unlikable guy, but he's really not.
He's pretty likable.
He's pretty pleasant. Yeah. I'm a big time Brady fan. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
All right. Well, that was disappointing, but nevertheless, hopefully the game itself will not be. We'll get to more on that, but first, let's take a look at everything else going on in the world of sports with your CSR headlines.
Patrik Laine's departure from Winnipeg may have been the result of deteriorating relationships with star forwards Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler. According to a Finnish report, Scheifele and Wheeler made it known that they preferred to play with each other on a line instead of with Laine. The report also suggests the two would talk about the former second overall pick behind his back and generally make life difficult for him. Laine and Jack Roslovic were dealt to the Columbus Blue Jackets last week in exchange for Pierre-Luc Dubois and a pick.
And you know what else? I hear on Wednesdays, Wheeler and Scheifele wear pink.
Oh, yeah, because they're mean girls.
That's right.
You can't sit with us.
You can't skate with us.
Yeah, you can't skate with us. Yeah. When they have film sessions, you can't sit with us. When they're out for morning skates, you can't skate with us. They just go off on their own. Yeah.
You can only wear your hair up like once a week.
Yeah. I think Laine, probably shortly after he was drafted, wore sweatpants or something like that. And it's like, you just gave up on yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't wear that on these days. Get out of here. And that's how it all started.
And then he started dating someone, but didn't even ask them what they thought about that person first.
Of course.
You
gotta
could
ask.
think you like someone, but you could be wrong, Patrick.
And now he's going to go off to Columbus and win prom queen. That was way too many references for Mean Girls. But
if we can't deep dive on Mean Girls references, then what are we even doing a sports show for, Mike?
It's a great movie.
It's so good.
It's a really good movie.
It's so good.
That's really good. Tina Fey directed. Yeah, good movie. Really good movie.
Yeah. So this report came out of Finland, and normally it's Russian newspapers that we
With
get
the leaks?
that we get these kind of odd reports from, and players who supposedly have gone on record where in North America, mum's the word, they don't say anything. As soon as they get back to Russia, it's just a leaky faucet of information. So that's always been interesting. But this one, coming out of Finland, which of course is where Patrik Laine is from, and I don't even know that it was necessarily like an interview with Patrik Laine. It just seems like it was kind of inside sources, so perhaps like friend of a friend back in Finland that came up with this. And it's kind of interesting. There's no, I don't know that there's anything absolutely bona fide proof in here. Like, it'd be one thing if all of a sudden, Dustin Byfuglien came out of the blue and he was just like, Wheels and Scheif. No, they're the worst.
That would be,
they're always talking behind your back.
That would be a lot more telling. I know we've made fun of this in the past, but it is really funny when over the course of the off season in the summer, typically when European players go back home and talk to publications, like it won't make its way back to North America and the NHL somehow. Whether I think one of them was in Italy one time, but you're right. It's Russia, Sweden, Finland, wherever players go to work out in the off season, and they'll talk with local media, and then it gets translated and makes its way back here and upsets a lot of people. It's always really funny. But you're right. So in this case, he wasn't quoted in the article. It did appear to be a little more speculative. But there were some tells that it was probably something that was leaked, like you said, maybe from an indirect source, or something of that nature. I think it's safe to say, though, that we knew that the fit didn't work. So I'm sure to some degree, there is some truth to these reports, because it didn't end up working out with Patrik Laine and the Winnipeg Jets. And so maybe, and so within it, it was alleged that right from the get-go that Scheifele much preferred playing with Blake Wheeler on his wing, so that made it tough for Laine to crack the top line and get some more minutes. And they made it pretty open that they preferred to play with each other, and would go as far as talking behind his back and just generally making life more difficult for him in any way they could. So you hope that these allegations aren't true. But clearly things weren't working out in Winnipeg for someone who had and still has all the potential in the world. I think netting 36 goals in his rookie year, 44 in his second year. He's someone who can go out and score 50 for you. But towards the tail end of the reports, and again, a little more speculative, but this so much is true. We've seen some big name players now not wanting to recommit to Winnipeg or openly asked to leave the market. Obviously, Laine and Roslovic being the two most recent. In the midst of a contract negotiation, Dustin Byfuglien hangs up the skates. Evander Kane, different reasons going on there. But we've had, some marquee players leave the market. So you hope that it's not, something to do in the locker room between Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele and the rest of their core there, or the management group with Kevin Cheveldayoff. But certainly some interesting and hot takes after last week's trade.
It's almost just like the timing is kind of what makes, though. I think it's more than anything the timing what makes those, all those incidents that are over, a course of, I don't know when it was that Evander Kane, when that whole incident went down
with Byfuglien. That was like
15.
We're going back 5-6 years.
Yeah. So I mean that you would think that the culture of the room has shifted and evolved since then. So it is still a very similar core. Blake Wheeler, of course, still being the captain in that time. So there are some consistencies, but I feel like it is a little bit of a stretch to tie those all together and think that they are perhaps, there is a core issue that all of these issues have kind of stemmed from. The Byfuglien one, I don't think it was anything necessarily to do with the locker room itself or like the culture or the leadership group. That just seemed like a weird mix up with regards to the Jets medical staff and the whole, they did an exit physical where they had cleared him, but his ankle was messed up. Supposedly, he hadn't communicated that his ankle was not 100%. There was a whole weird thing there. That I don't know if it really ties into this story per se, but it does start to look bad. Yeah, when you look back over the years and you're like, this is a continued thing where it's, it's not just a straight, hey, we thought we could make a good trade. It was like there was something going on inside the locker room, regardless of where it was stemming from. And the end result being that a potentially really useful player ends up moving elsewhere. In this case, I think, with Patrik Laine, and this story coming out of Finland that, that he wasn't getting treated well, or wasn't getting perhaps the opportunity to be a top line player, you kind of have to think that it's kind of a situation where Patrik Laine is a guy who carries himself with a lot of pride. He knows he is a top tier scorer in the NHL. Anyone who's watched him play over the course of his career knows that he is an elite scoring talent. And as I said last week, anytime you see a talent like that leave the room, it's unfortunate. You kind of wonder, though, if there was a sense that he came in his rookie year thinking, I should be on the top line of this team. I'm good enough to be on the top line of this team. And then you have someone like Blake Wheeler being the captain, Paul Maurice being the coach, Mark Scheifele being an assistant captain, maybe telling a young guy, hey, you got to wait your turn. You can't come in as a rookie or, even as a sophomore player and start calling the shots. We all know you are going to be a fantastic hockey player. You already have the scoring touch, but there's a lot more that goes into being a complete player to then scoring touch. I mean, you can even just look at Alex Ovechkin for that. A lot of people will still argue that he is still just a goal scorer, but he's evolved. Yeah. He has absolutely evolved his game. You look at his, his dedication to defense and to playing a system, over the course of his career. In his rookie year, he wanted nothing to do with his own end. And he got away with it because he could score 50 goals and he was on a Capitals team that more wanted to sell tickets than win Stanley Cups at the time. You can get away with that when you're a flashy, first overall draft pick or whatever he was. That would have worn out its welcome eventually had he not decided to evolve his game and help push an elite Washington Capitals team over the edge to eventually winning a Stanley Cup. If he doesn't win that cup, then, you could score all the 50-goal seasons you want. That's great, but it doesn't amount to, what you're really playing for, which is, of course, championships. And I think that maybe this was a sense where Patrik Laine came in with this sense that he was a second overall pick. He should be the guy. Mm-hmm. And there are, I think, a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans who kind of bought into that. And it stems from the whole Teemu Selanne.
Yeah,
the love affair with Teemu Selanne.
Yeah.
Winnipeggers have a love of Finnish players.
Yeah, that's true.
and Teemu Selanne he could still, run for mayor in Winnipeg, and he would win by a landslide. Mm-hmm. There would be no question. And I think maybe Patrik Laine just kind of thought that would be the reception that he would get. And it might well have been. And I think if things had played out differently and he decided he was going to dedicate himself to this team, I don't think there would have been the issues that you're seeing now. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler are a clique, and it rubs players the wrong way. I don't really know, but I would have to believe that it's more of a situation where you have a young player who thinks that he should be the guy, mm-hmm. and he is in a room of guys who also want to be the guy and have put in a bit more work to be the guy. I don't know. It's an interesting situation. Mm-hmm. Maybe more will come out of it. Yep. Maybe it won't. But either way, it's fun to make Mean Girls references, isn't it?
Well, I was gonna ask you somewhat related. If you remember those videos of Alex Ovechkin back checking, and then he just gives up on the play.
Yes. And
then it says your Xbox or PlayStation controller has been unplugged, because he didn't commit at all to back checking and would literally just coast, glide for the last 100 feet because, I don't really feel like back checking today. Yeah. I've done my job in the offensive zone. I don't have to play on the other end of the ice, do I? But you're right. In the second portion of his career, he became a complete hockey player. He was always a physical presence. He's a big guy, so he would always be really aggressive on the forecheck. But obviously always had the scoring touch. But then when he recommitted himself to the defensive side of the puck, he became a really complete player, generational player, obviously.
And all things considered, this last season, the 2019-2020 season, Patrik Laine did take a step towards becoming a complete player. You could see he was more than just a sniper now. He had the on-ice vision to make passes that he was not able to see or make previously. There was a lot more effort, a dedication to team defense in his own zone, to making sure he got, did the little things right. He got pucks out, pucks deep when you need to, no neutral zone turnovers, not being cute with the puck, making hard plays. There was a definite a step forward in Patrik Laine's game last year to becoming a complete player. Mm-hmm. And who knows? Maybe he had already had his mind made up by that point that he was not going to be a part of this team long term. It's tough, I mean, I as a Winnipeg Jets fan, I do wish him well, absolutely, in Columbus. I hope it works out for him there. I hope I hope he's happy playing there. Wish it could have worked out differently because, despite everything, despite the rumors of not being happy in Winnipeg, I think a lot of the vast majority of Winnipeggers would have preferred to see him remain a Winnipeg Jet. But it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And now he gets to have fun with John Tortorella. So I guess one factor that I didn't really think of when we broke down the trade last week, quarantine. So yes,
they will not be suiting up for their respective new clubs. Yeah. Pierre-Luc Dubois and Roslovic and Laine for the Blue Jackets until I guess sometime mid next week.
I think I saw a report that later this week.
Okay, I'm sure it would have been tested upon arrival in Canada and the States respectively, and probably a series of negative tests in a row, and then you can join your new club.
Yeah.
But that will be a pairing to watch.
Yes.
You hope, and being speculative again, you hope things like egos don't get into the way, and that's the report sort of touched on that a little bit. Being the number 2 overall pick in the 2016 draft behind only Austin Matthews would have come into the market with a lot of hype.
Yep.
You mentioned, the buzz for Finnish players in that market. And Teemu Selanne was referenced in that report as well. So, it seemed like it stemmed from a jealousy standpoint with with probably more so Wheeler, who plays the same position as Laine. But
yeah, that was kind of alluded to, that he supposedly felt a bit threatened by Patrik Laine's presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. I don't know. That's tough to say.
Yeah, it's tough. You just hope it doesn't come down to egos, because they could have been a really fun, rolled out a really dangerous top six for years to come. Their offensive core was always among the more elite. Would definitely be in this division, in the North Division, but were always fun to watch. They always had a really strong top six. So unfortunate that things didn't work out, but like you said, it gets a brand new opportunity. Torts had some hilarious takes, as always, after the trade. Asked if why he benched Pierre-Luc Dubois. Said, "Yeah, I did it for my reasons. Would I do it again? Absolutely." So he's not going to hold any punches. He's going to keep someone like Laine accountable. Yeah. And we'll probably see him blossom into even better of a two-way player, which is only going to help his growth and his game. And hopefully he can regain that scoring touch, and we'll see him put up some good numbers again. But either way, it's going to be a really fun pairing to keep our eyes on.
Should we move on to the undisputed Regina George of the Toronto Raptors?
You betcha. Toronto Raptors guard Kyle Lowry eclipsed 10,000 points as a member of the club last week in a game against the Milwaukee Bucks. He is now one of 3 players in franchise history to accomplish the feat, with the other 2 being DeMar DeRozan and Chris Bosh. Lowry was already the Raptors' all-time leader in 3 points made, assists, steals, win shares, and triple-doubles.
I had no idea that DeMar DeRozan had already hit 10,000 as a member of the Toronto Raptors. That makes his stint as a Raptor even more impressive.
So he's a number 1 all-time leading scorer for the Toronto Raptors. And you know what? Probably will be for some time. And I'm saying that because maybe Kyle Lowry gets dealt this year. We'll see. He's scoring at, I think, a clip of around 18 points a game right now. He's going to pass Chris Bosh, who I think is sitting about 250 points ahead of him. So by season's end, he should be able to eclipse Bosh and become the second highest Raptor scorer of all time. DeMar DeRozan, though, sitting in at number 1 with around 13,500. And we'll see. I mean, he was the only one, the only All-Star to commit to Toronto long term. That's why I made that trade so heartbreaking for so many Raptors fans. Yep. As soon as free agency hit, Chris Bosh packed his bags. He went to South Beach. Vince Carter famously requesting his trade. He's not going to dunk in games anymore. The Raptors get a horrible return from the then New Jersey Nets.
Did he say that? He wasn't going to dunk in games anymore?
Yeah,
wow,
he wasn't going to dunk. Yeah, he, was it 99 that he won the one of the best slam dunk competitions of all time?
Oh, man.
Iconic. He changed that competition forever. When he reached the pinnacle of his dissatisfaction with the franchise, he came out and said, "No, I'm not going to dunk anymore. I don't want to." And then, of course, gets traded to New York, and the dunk show continues. And he blossomed into an even better player.
Can't sense a hint of bitterness in your voice.
Not at all. Not at all. But I still do wish, though, that they signed him to a one-day contract before. Yeah. So he had a really unceremonious retirement, right? Which was sad. He's a fantastic player. He never won on the highest level, but could score as well as anyone. With that generation of players, the Allen Iversons, the Kobe Bryants, the Shaqs, in the Steve Nash era, he was one of the hottest tickets in town. Yeah. Gyms would fill up just to watch him play. So I did, he had a bit of a tour towards the end of his career. He played on a lot of different teams on shorter deals. But I did want to see, and there was some, rumors that he would come back and sign a one-day deal and retire with the Raptors, which would have been really fitting and a nice little tribute to him, because he really did put, basketball on the map for a lot of Canadians.
Yeah. But we're surprised it never happened. Like,
Yeah,
it seemed like it was inevitable almost at one point, and then just yeah.
Yeah, and even beyond the one day, which we see in a lot of sports as a sort of ceremonial way to pay tribute to someone who left a mark on your organization. There were actually some fits within the team in the last 2 years probably of his career where they could have actually signed him to a deal, like a one year deal, to bring him in, to bring that veteran leadership and at a position where there was a need for the club. And there were some rumors, there were some links between them, but unfortunately nothing ever got done.
Yeah.
And unfortunate for him, just the way, because he was a member of the Atlanta Hawks in his last season last year. 22 teams were invited to the bubble, or 24 teams, leaving out 6, between 6 and 8, and the Atlanta Hawks were so bad that they were not invited.
Yeah.
So then that's when we kind of had the realization, like, we've just seen the last of Vince Carter.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah, tough way to go out. But we're talking about the best Raptor ever right now, and that's Kyle Lowry. So he continues his ascent. He embodies everything that winning is all about. He does it all for the Toronto Raptors. So this is just another nice little milestone for him. As we alluded to already, a leader in a number of different statistical categories. I think in a lot of people's minds, he's number one.
Yeah.
In terms of franchise players for the Toronto Raptors.
Should it be undisputed?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
You don't think it should be undisputed?
No, I don't. I don't. He was there. He was there for since, it's funny because you go back to, was it like 2013? There was a deal on the table for him to go to the Knicks.
Right.
I can't remember who was coming back the other way, but by today's standards, we would have been absolutely fleeced because he's just been winning ever since he became a part of the organization. The Raptors have won. They've experienced the best that the franchise has in his time, and he's a huge reason for that. DeMar DeRozan too. So it's always going to be tough thinking about that trade, but you get a championship out of it. So DeMar DeRozan probably, slotting in at the number 2 position.
Yeah.
You got to throw Kawhi in there. He's going to crack the top 5, probably the top 3 because of what he did in that one heroic season. Obviously, Vince Carter's going to be there.
Yeah.
The Mo Peets, Alvin Williams. But Kyle he's at the top in most Raptors fans' minds, and
Definitely
really
in their hearts.
In their hearts, of course. And it's not crazy now to think that he's got a legit chance at making the Hall of Fame now.
Yeah.
He's just been that good. And we'll see. So the Raptors have turned things around a little bit of late. They're sitting at 8-12 now in the Eastern Conference. Not great, obviously, but only a half game back of a playoff spot.
Right.
Miami
They're slowly
Heat,
turning it around.
They are. They are.
Year,
yeah. Miami Heat also uncharacteristically struggling right now, but they're getting healthy. So we'll see what they do. Are they going to be sellers at the deadline? And if you do, you could probably get a really nice package for someone like Kyle Lowry. If you're a contender, he is exactly what you want on your team. Yeah. He's a floor general. He can still score at a really high level. He is a defensively minded player. He'll draw a charge for you multiple times in a game. And he's just your emotional leader. And now has won on the highest level, has a gold medal as well with Team USA. So he's just a winner. Honestly, if you're going to chalk it up to one word, he is a winner and exactly who you would want on your team. So we'll see what the rest of the season brings for him. But this is just a nice little milestone in a really historic career with the Toronto Raptors.
All right. Well, we're going to talk a little bit of Super Bowl coming up, but first, you don't really have too many blockbuster trades on Super Bowl week or Super Bowl double week in the NFL, but the other day proved different.
Yeah, got a little notification, kind of shocking. The Detroit Lions are trading quarterback Matthew Stafford to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for quarterback Jared Goff, 2 future first-round picks, and a third-round pick. The swap will include the Rams' first-round picks in 2022 and 2023, along with their third-round pick this year. The blockbuster trade of 2 starting quarterbacks and former number 1 overall draft picks will provide a change of scenery for 2 players who probably need it.
Now, this trade it's a little bit baffling. Now, there were reports that it seemed fairly accepted that Matthew Stafford was done with the Detroit Lions.
Yep.
At the conclusion of this regular season, finished 5-11, dreadful year for the Detroit Lions, and seemed like there was a shift. The Lions were going to go in a different direction. They were under I think a new GM they had in place, and he had no plans for Matthew Stafford going forward. And then this is a guy who I think, is about like a 15-year career with the Detroit. He's been there for a while now.
First overall pick in 2009, yeah.
2009. So, yeah,
doesn't
quite 15 years, but a dozen years. He's been their main guy for about that long. And has been, there's been years where he has been one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. He's not won a Super Bowl, not really done anything significant in the playoffs.
He hasn't even won a playoff game.
Hasn't won a playoff game. There we go.
Yeah.
So there's something very confusing about this trade. Now, Jared Goff, on the other hand, had just been re-signed to, a 4-year extension with the St. Louis Rams. Big time money, just like a couple years removed from a Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah.
Where, as is the tale for most Super Bowl quarterbacks, they lost to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. That's just kind of what happens in the NFL.
Yep.
You can't necessarily blame it on one guy, but the St. Louis Rams had a bit of a rough start to the year, but finished 10-6. Lost in their divisional round, won their wild card round against the Seahawks. Lost in the divisional round to the Green Bay Packers, and I don't understand quite why there is such a haste to get rid of Jared Goff, like so much to the point where you're willing to trade 2 first-round draft picks and a third for a guy who has not won anything.
No.
I really, really don't. And not only has he not won anything, but he didn't have the Detroit Lions basically already took leverage away from themselves by having it fairly well known that they did not have him in their future plans.
Yep.
So like a guy that they had no intention of keeping on the roster, and it still took you 2 first-round draft picks, your starting quarterback, and a third-rounder to bring him in?
Yeah.
This is very, very baffling.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're just banking on a change of scenery being helpful. 33 years old for Matthew Stafford, so no spring chicken. Across the board, if we're talking statistically, he is a better passer than Jared Goff. Is he good enough to take you to the next level, though? Does this make them favorites in the NFC West now? I don't know.
Yeah.
It is a marked upgrade at the position, but what's coming with him is not a resume. No playoff success at all. Granted, you're in a tough market in Detroit where he put up fine numbers as a passer, but nothing to show for it when it matters the most in postseason play. And then the other way, you package 3 picks, 2 of them first rounders, someone multiple years his junior. Goff only drafted first overall pick in 2016. Has had some playoff success, win all the way in 2018 and losing to the Patriots, as he said, as a member of the Los Angeles Rams. And so curiously, the Rams front office, management and ownership group even publicly lost confidence in him. So this, if looking at trade grades, looking pretty good for the Lions, who now get a much younger quarterback and 3 picks to pair it with, and for someone who's had more postseason success as well. Didn't have a great year last year, and to be clear, Stafford is an improvement for at least the Rams. But the Lions aren't getting any scrub either, so they're getting a very serviceable younger quarterback and 3 picks with it. So, but But maybe one of those situations where a change of scenery ends up working out for both of them.
We talked a couple weeks ago, of course, about the latest blockbuster trade in the NBA. It seems like the major sports leagues in North America are just taking turns with these blockbuster trades. But of course, it was James Harden heading to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn sending the kitchen sink in return. And what was it, like 4 teams involved?
Yes, 4-team trade.
They gave a lot was given up to bring James Harden over to Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
And the argument was that it's kind of worth it in the NBA, just because of how the league is, the nature of how players move around, and how draft picks, especially for one of those desired markets, do not hold the same weight as, like a less desirable market where you need to build through the draft.
Yep.
If you're a Brooklyn, you're an LA, you're a Philly, you're one of these markets where players are just always going to want to play. Boston, anywhere like that. Like the draft picks are not nearly as valuable in the NBA. In the NFL, I can't imagine mortgaging a future like that where you don't have now a first round draft pick for the next 2 years. Yeah. Like that is the average football player's, career is like 5 years.
Yep.
Tops. And, with what we know, what we continue to learn with regards to head trauma just, the physicality of the game, those career expectancies are only getting shorter, and thus the average, career expectancy is getting shorter as well. So to do that, especially for a guy to bring over who's 33 years old, like that's, for any normal quarterback, save for a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers, like that's approaching the end of your career already. It translated okay in the NBA with bringing a superstar over like James Harden.
Right.
Nobody was questioning. He's one of the best players in the NBA. I don't think anyone is looking at Matthew Stafford and thinking, oh, yeah, no, I make that trade. He's one of the elite. Again, it's one thing if you're making that trade for an Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
A Matthew Stafford?
Yeah. I would like to revisit this conversation in about a year's time, because my personal prediction, I think this raises the floor a little bit for the Rams. Is it going to ultimately raise their ceiling?
Right.
And by that, I mean postseason success.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll end up, eating our words. I'm
always prepared to do that.
Yeah.
Mike.
So I'm going to predict sizable gains for the Rams. And if we don't see it immediately next year in Detroit, for years to come, they're just in a better position today than they were yesterday.
Yeah.
Or I guess on Saturday before the trade was announced. So, And that's a pretty big gamble for the Rams to take. I think they're a little bit of a higher floor, but I think the ceiling is a little overrated.
It's going to have to come with instant payoff, pretty much, or this is not going to be well received.
Yeah.
And right now, it's just barely making a passing grade of some kind.
Yeah. So I don't think they don't have a first round pick in 2021. They just gave up their next 2 in 2022 and 2023,
right,
as well as the third round pick in this upcoming draft as well. So it's a lot of capital to part with.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Again, always prepared to eat my words.
Yep.
And with that in mind, let's make some Super Bowl predictions, Mike.
Excellent.
What are you thinking?
I know it's ill-advised, but I am going to be betting against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champs, are going to get a stiffer test this year. They just have too many weapons. Okay. And Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, obviously the best passer in the game right now, and Patrick Mahomes. I guess the key to the game for me will be the secondary for the Chiefs. I think the only way the Buccaneers win is if it's an absolute shootout, which they're very capable of doing, of course. And then what kind of secondary are we going to see from the Buccaneers? The Buccaneers have their weapons too, of course. They've got Gronk. They can hurt you in some different ways too. And have the best winner in Tom Brady, and he could really pull out all the stops on Sunday as well. So I could eat my words, but I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
Did you want me to throw out a score?
Throw out a score.
Okay, yeah. 34-28.
34-28.
I feel like that's always the score I land on. I don't know, because it's going to be
good football.
It's going to be a higher score.
Yeah.
I think. Like they're both really good offenses.
Yeah.
So we could be in store for a bit of a shootout.
Okay. You're looking for an exciting Super Bowl. I'm going to look for a snooze fest.
Okay.
And say Tom Brady's defense wins him another Super
Nice.
Bowl. Let's go 23-21.
Wow.
Maybe a last-second
Only
field goal.
21 for the
Yeah,
Chiefs.
That's right. It's going to be the Tom Brady and Gronk show.
Yeah. I will say, though, I bet you the Bucs get out to an early lead.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say like at least 9-0.
9-0.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 9-0 lead.
Yeah. Or, a 10-0. So it's going to be a score, 1 point, and then a field goal, something like that. And then the Chiefs will go, all right. They do that I think in their last 3 playoff games, going back to the last Super Bowl and this year's conference and divisional round, they get down like a couple scores. It's like, do you guys want to start playing now?
Right.
Let's do it.
I think maybe we see the reverse of what we've seen.
Okay.
And Kansas City gets out to a big lead,
Yeah.
21-0.
Yeah.
And then doesn't know how to play with the lead.
That's right.
And Tampa Bay sneaks back in there.
Or they just go up 51-0.
Oh, yeah. Or they maybe go up 51.
That probably doesn't happen. Either way, though, if it is a one possession game and one of them has the ball on a potential game winning drive, that's going to be good.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
They're probably going to get a score. And it is going to make for some very fun football.
Looking forward to that, and looking forward, as always, to potentially eating our words. Mike and I with your Super Bowl predictions here on Cabin Sports Radio.
The Cabin Sports Radio Podcast, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio, as always, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. And Sport North actually just put out a little statement the other day thanking Les Skinner for his service as president of the Sport North Federation. Les has accepted the position of NWT private sector representative with the Arctic Winter Games International Committee. And so Sport North just wanted to thank Les for his dedication and devotion as a staff member, board member. He'll be dearly missed. They wish him all the best with his new position. And welcome on. Former Sport North Federation Vice President Colin Pybus will now step into the role as president. So congratulations, Colin, and congratulations to Les Skinner. And big thanks for your years of dedication and service as president of the board with Sport North. All right, Mike, a little bit of drama in the Big Apple. What's going on?
All right, Lecter. The slumping New York Rangers placed defenseman Tony DeAngelo on waivers over the weekend. The move followed a 5-4 overtime loss at the hands of the Pittsburgh Penguins on Saturday night. According to reports, DeAngelo and Rangers goaltender Alexander Georgiev got into a physical altercation that had to be broken up by teammates. Through 6 games, the 25-year-old registered a single point with New York. Do you want to hear a transcript? So this is a transcript from Elliot Friedman, I believe, is 31 thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's a quick synopsis of what is alleged to have transpired in the Rangers dressing room on Saturday. So Saturday night, Rangers Penguins, 10 seconds before the winning goal is scored, Georgiev and DeAngelo have a mix-up, a miscommunication behind the net. Sidney Crosby, he's pretty good at hockey, gets in between them, and the Rangers players who are already on the ice for a while and noticeably exhausted can't get off. Crosby scores, and the Penguins win in overtime. They go off the ice. Georgiev is sitting, disappointed, like any competitive person, especially a goaltender, would be after a game like that. DeAngelo walks by him and makes a sarcastic crack to him, and Georgiev clocks him. They go at it, and their teammates break it up. Later that night, the Rangers call DeAngelo or his agent, and they say, "That's the last straw. You're going on waivers tomorrow." At noon Eastern time on Sunday, That's what happened.
So the last straw, obviously indicating that there have been several straws before now.
Yeah.
Which, if you have not been paying attention, maybe you're not familiar with the name Anthony or Tony DeAngelo. Here's a little rap sheet on Tony DeAngelo and what may have led us to this point. So first of all, first round draft pick by the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2014, had a fantastic junior career, put up huge numbers with Sarnia Sting and the Sioux Greyhounds. In 2014, he had 71 points in 51 games. The following year, he split time between Sarnia and Sioux. 89 points in 55 games, which is, I mean, off the charts numbers for any young defenseman in junior. While in junior, now the on ice was good. The off ice and perhaps the extracurricular stuff, not so good. He was suspended 8 games under the OHL harassment, abuse, and diversity policy for verbally abusing a teammate. He was also, after starting his NHL career, suspended for verbal abuse of an official in his rookie year as a member of the Arizona Coyotes.
Wow.
Now, this past season, he was 4th in entire defenseman league scoring, 53 points in 68 games. He's a good player.
Yeah.
He's a really good hockey player. Obviously, a really rough start to this year. 1 assist in 6 games. He was a healthy scratch about a week into the season, which doesn't normally happen with players who have put up 53 points in 68 games the previous year, and especially players who are just coming off signing a 2-year contract extension for $9.6 million. Not nothing. The kind of money where you expect the player that you're signing to that kind of contract to be playing every game. You don't normally healthy scratch a player like that. Now, this, if you look even further off ice, around the time that President Donald Trump got banned from Twitter.
Okay, yep.
Tony DeAngelo decided to deactivate his Twitter account after I guess what you would describe as a tirade, a meltdown, perhaps, if you will.
Yep.
He said that, quote, Twitter is a joke and a disgrace, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And if you want anything, if you want to follow me on social media, you can follow my Instagram. He shut down his Twitter after that. He has a podcast that has not put out an episode, interestingly, since around the time that, historic insurrection was happening at the U.S. Capitol.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Hasn't spoken much about that. Now, you might think that this is an NHL player who is busy carrying on with his NHL career, but to this point in his career, there hasn't been a lot in his professional life that has stopped Tony DeAngelo from shooting his mouth off in his personal life.
Right.
There is now, and I want to point out too that he was a 19th overall draft pick in 2014, and I remember at that time, talent-wise, he should have been a higher pick.
Yep.
He fell to number 19 and was taken by the Tampa Bay Lightning, who, of course, you may remember, the general manager at the time was Steve Yzerman.
Yep.
I think the reason he fell was because there were these questions about his character. There were already documented off-ice issues that made people think, you know what, maybe we'll just take a pass on this guy. You get to someone like Steve Yzerman, who's, he's had lots of experience as a longtime captain in the NHL and then had already been general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning for several years by that point. It's a guy who's probably thinking, you know what, we can probably work with this guy.
Yeah.
If we can figure out how to work with the character, shape him as a person off the ice, then you got no issues. Then you just have a talented player that you are bringing onto your team. Obviously, Steve Yzerman and his team decided at some point that was not working. He then got shipped to the Arizona Coyotes before ever playing a game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then after one season in Arizona, was traded to New York for, I believe, in a package deal for Derek Stepan and Antti Ranta. he had a great season, as we pointed out last year with the New York Rangers. But and I hesitate to say this because it's just absurd to think that a player with this much talent could shoot himself in the foot to this degree. He might have played his last NHL game, which is, I realize, just
Tony DeAngelo.
Shocking to say. He's 25 years old, I think, should be entering the prime of his career.
Yeah.
And due to these constant character issues, he's probably worn out his welcome.
Yeah. The just earlier this afternoon, Rangers general manager did announce that he's played his last game with the Rangers. So he's cleared waivers now. We'll see if any other team wants to. But there would have to be some navigating in terms of his deal. And I'm not sure how that even happens. But in terms of the New York Rangers organization, he has played his last game, according to their management.
And it sounds like he's not even going to be welcome on their AHL affiliate.
Yeah.
As, you know, you got young, impressionable players on there.
Yeah.
If you have a guy who is a potential problem in the locker room, I don't think you want him around those young players. And I think that is the situation that Tony DeAngelo is in right now. He might just be hanging out at home working on his podcast for the next however many months now. Yeah. It's such a shame, honestly. And I think now, I think a lot of people, when they hear a story like this, they'd be inclined to think that a young player is getting persecuted for his political beliefs and affiliations, which simply is not the case here. And you can try and say it that way all you want, but the bottom line is this guy wasn't a locker room issue long before Donald Trump was a American presidential issue.
That's right.
So it's just a series of continued incidences down a path of a character that is not defined well.
Yep.
And it's such a shame to think that such a talent is just being wasted, and that there have no doubt been countless people who have tried to reach this kid and make him see the bigger picture, which have all been wasted efforts in the end. It's one thing to be a controversial figure when you are participating in a sport where you are completely self-reliant, i.e., a Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor can do and say what he wants. He doesn't have to rely on teammates other than his gym, his training team. They obviously accept him for who he is, what he is, all the stuff he says. And that's great for him, I suppose. But when you are part of a team-based sport, you have got to find a way to get along with your teammates. And if that means shutting up about your political beliefs, that might be what it takes. I don't really know more to say about it than that.
Do you think Georgiev's stock rose a little bit in the Rangers locker room after that altercation?
Well, and just the fact that one incident like that and you're gone. It's just they were waiting for him to do again. He was at strike 2.5.
Oh yeah.
By this point,
that tells the whole story. If this is a straw that broke the camel's back, this is probably something they were contemplating as is. You mentioned he's even worn out his welcome with their minor affiliate. So another budding, promising player on their roster, K'Andre Miller, reports that they've always sort of had a fractured relationship, and that goes back to their time in the minors,
right?
Where they never got along, bullying allegations on DeAngelo's part, and to the point where it carried over to the NHL, where there are reports. It's been refuted, but when you hear stories like what happened on Saturday, you tend to believe a little bit more of it. Reports that when Miller scored his first goal, DeAngelo made sure to grab the puck so that he couldn't get it. His own teammate couldn't get the puck for what would have been a ceremonial goal for him and the start of his career. So clearly,
I mean, and why would people make that up?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like it's such a ludicrous thing to do that you would almost think that it must have happened.
Right?
This isn't Chris Pronger playing a prank on, whatever the Chicago Blackhawks and the
right. Yes,
the 2010 Stanley Cup.
I remember that.
Like this is your teammate who's supposed to be on your side and celebrating your accomplishments with you as a fellow teammate.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that's a made up story.
Yeah.
It's just so bizarre.
Exactly. So, and then this past weekend, you got an overtime win Saturday night.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, you're put on waivers.
Yeah.
So, I think it speaks to a much bigger picture, and that is that he was a locker room cancer long before this weekend, and this is a culmination of some really bad choices over the years, and rubbing his teammates the wrong way, and not being helpful in the locker room. So, we've now, according to their management, seen him play his last game in a Rangers uniform, and we'll see if anyone else wants to carry that risk.
Yeah. I mean, we're all. I think we're all for second chances here.
Yeah.
On Cabin Sports Radio, but there's got to be a will.
Yep.
There's got to be a will from both sides to acknowledge their faults, their mistakes, and I hope that as a young player who still should have a long, prosperous career ahead of him, I hope that Tony DeAngelo is able to maybe take this time that has been, now unexpectedly given to him, do some serious self-reflection.
Oh, yeah.
Think about your whole hockey career to this point.
Yeah.
How you've
It's hanging in the balance.
Take a look in the mirror. And, hopefully something good can come of this. Because, again, that is a ton of wasted talent.
Yep.
If he never ends up playing with another team.
We've been talking about that a lot lately in the NHL. It's disheartening.
It really is.
These guys oozing talent, but they make stupid decisions off the ice. Or on the ice in some cases.
Yeah, a little bit of both sometimes. Yeah.
You hate to see it.
All right, that is going to do it for tonight's episode of Cabin Sports Radio, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. We are going to finish off with your moments of zen and have a little moment with another fellow Rangers player who, at the peak of his popularity, was suddenly no longer a member of the Blue Shirts. Have a little visit.
You'll remember him.
You'll remember him. Have a good week, and we will talk to you next week on Cabin Sports Radio.
You might know this, but the Rangers right now really struggling, off to a little bit of an inauspicious start. Do you think, well, first of all, how closely are you watching the team nowadays, and what do you think their issues are, / could you add anything, because the Rangers need something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be too late to come out of retirement and make the end of the season. I'd probably need 2 or 3 months to really kind of get going. But I certainly could put my skates on and go out there and drop my gloves and get them fired up. I went to a game against Montreal a couple of weeks ago, and it's a snooze fest. I mean, there's no emotion. Nobody even rubs somebody in the face anymore. It's kind of, it's a team full of people that I don't know, that don't stand out. Not just the Rangers, it was also like that for the Montreal team. They just need to embrace that arena and kind of, use that as your seventh man right now and ride the crowd and get them into the game. That was one of the things we loved the most.
Right.
Was the ability to have that adrenaline shot from the greatest arena in the world, and the fans that were either on top of you because you weren't playing, or they were so happy and they were with you that they pushed you along, and that's what they have to kind of tap into.
It's possible they just don't make them like Sean Avery and Mark